Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, before I start my question, ask if I understood Mr. Horn to have replied to Ms. Norton that you would respond only to requests from the chairman and therefore not to requests from any other member of the committee?
The administration's policy is to respond on matters of oversight, to respond to requests from
only from the chairman. I don't have time. So your answer is yes, only to from the chairman, nobody else.
Only to the committee, yes.
So you ignore everybody else, not to the committee, to the chairman. Only if a request comes from the chairman, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me just say that that is an obnoxious and unprecedented, I understand you didn't say it, but it's an obnoxious and unprecedented contempt for Congress, which is intolerable. Mr. Horn, at a January press conference, the President promised to track profits received by his hotels from foreign governments and to donate those profits to charity or to the U.S. Treasury. In May, in response to a bipartisan request from the Oversight Committee, the Trump Organization stated it was, quote, impractical, unquote, to, quote, fully and completely identify all patronage, unquote, at its hotels. Now, Mr. Horn, do you have any reason to believe that the President and his company, that is his private company, is following through on his January promise to track and donate all foreign monies received by his hotels?
My role is to make sure that the agency is administering the lease, and as far as I know, that clause is not in the lease.
So your answer is you do not know?
I don't know.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Has GSA sought to amend the lease or otherwise enter into an agreement to require the Trump Organization to track payments by foreign governments?
No.
It has not.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Have you contacted the Department of Justice or the Office of Government Ethics and asked for assistance or direction on evaluating whether the Trump Organization is violating the Foreign Emoluments Clause of the U.S. Constitution by not tracking these payments by foreign governments?
Again, our role is to administer the lease. We'll leave judgment about emoluments to...
But in administering the lease, you have to determine, presumably, whether you're administering something legally. You can't simply ignore it.
And as I've stated, the contracting officer has made the determination that the tenant is in full compliance with the lease.
Okay. Now, the Foreign Emoluments Clause that has been mentioned before applies not just to the President and members of Congress, but to anyone holding an office of profit or trust under the United States. Are any other GSA properties leased by an elected official, officer, or employee of the federal government?
I don't know the answer.
Do you make any attempt to find out?
I'd be happy to look into it and follow up.
No, but do you make any attempt? Is it a normal practice to try to find out when someone signs a lease, or are you ignoring that provision of the Constitution? Which is it?
It would be a normal practice for the contracting officer who makes the decision about lease award to make sure that the awardee was in compliance with the lease.
But you don't know if that includes looking into whether the lessee is an employee of the U.S. government?
To the degree that if that's a term and condition of the lease, then...
No, it's not a term and condition of the lease. It's a term and condition of the Constitution.
Again, GSA's role is to determine compliance with the lease and applicable laws.
And the Constitution is not applicable?
Of course it is.
Okay. So why don't you make... It would seem then it would be incumbent on you to look into that in every case, or at least ask about it.
Well, again, we have 12,000 employees that make these decisions all across the country. It's their role to look into.
Okay, and you have no policy.
It's my job to oversee.
And you have no policy to obey the law. Do any other GSA properties help to facilitate payments from foreign governments to federal elected office holders?
Please repeat the question.
Do any other GSA properties help to facilitate payments from foreign governments to federal elected office holders?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Between October 1st and March 31st, lobbyists working on behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia spent $270,000 on rooms, catering, and parking at the Trump Hotel. In December of last year, Bahraini diplomats moved the country's National Day festivities to the hotel's ballroom. In February, Kuwait moved its annual gala from the Four Seasons to Trump International. Does the old post office lease agreement prohibit, well, is it appropriate for the GSA to maintain a lease that allows foreign governments to make payments as I've just mentioned, all in each case, that directly benefit a government official, in this case, the President of the United States?
Sir, we manage the terms and conditions of the lease. The contracting officer has determined that the tenant is in compliance with the lease. We don't manage day-to-day operations. Our job is to administer the lease. We don't get involved in day-to-day operations of the hotel.
But your legal department has made no determination, one way or the other, whether payments from foreign governments to an entity leased from the GSA by a government official, in this case the President of the United States, constitutes a violation of the Emoluments Clause or not. You're simply agnostic on that point.
Our legal department has supported the decision of the contracting officer
Has it made an opinion on that?
that the tenant is in full compliance.
Has it made
with
an
the terms
opinion
and
on it that we can
conditions
have?
of the lease.
Has it made an opinion on that? That's my question.
Our Office of Legal Counsel supports the contracting officer.
Has it made an opinion?
Gentleman's time has
No,
expired.
but he's got to answer the question.
The gentleman's time has expired.
He's got to answer the
The
question.
gentleman's time has expired.
But he
The
should be
gentleman's
instruct-
time has expired.
But he should answer the question.
Your question was asked after your time has expired.
No, it wasn't.
We'll have a second round. There are three basic issues.